So let's get busy. This is our third installment of Cancer Support Awareness Month. It's World Cancer Support Awareness Month. So that's what we're talking about. This is our third time having this conversation about World Cancer Support Month. So, and I think that we need to keep shouting it out there. We make recordings of this too. We've got lots of recordings of Dr. Prasad talking about the benefits of cancer, but there's an angle here that we want to try to explore today that I think we don't talk about it very often. So before we make way for Dr. Prasad, if he joins us, let's talk a little bit about the emotional support component of it. And I think that it really is lacking in many respects. So before we really dive in too deep, understand that the FDA has not evaluated the comments that I'm about to make. Testimonials that you'll hear are anecdotal, and we hope that some of you who are on the call now will be willing to share your story, especially if you had a cancer support, cancer survival story. Please be willing to share that with us. But testimonials you hear are anecdotal. Results are atypical. What happens to one person may or may not happen to you, and we have to say that by law. Neither the Healthcare Support Association of America, Engage Global, Dr. Prasad, Jonathan Jones, and none of the authorized representatives are making any claims that the supplements that we discuss will treat, cure, or heal in any way, shape, or form. Only the federal government can declare a substance to be a treatment for a disease state. So this presentation is for information and educational purposes only. It's not intended to be a substitute for a visit to your doctor. We strongly recommend that you seek the competent medical advice of professionals that you trust. So keep that in mind as we go on through our discussion today. We're talking about the power of emotions in cancer treatment. And we're just going to touch on a little bit how negative and positive emotions can have an impact on health in general. And it's really true. And some of the references I'm going to share, you can take screenshots if you'd like, or just write them down. But again, the material is being recorded. It's right now being live streamed on YouTube. So you're able to get access to it. Just look at the top of your screen. If you're looking on Zoom now, you'll see a link for YouTube. Copy and paste that, and you can get access to it sometime in the future. And if you are joining us right now on Zoom, thank you for joining us. Please like, subscribe, and share if you find the information to be of any value whatsoever. But we're recommending a holistic approach to cancer treatment, because there's one thing to just blast it with harsh chemicals, as Dr. Prasad has referred to them as free radicals in themselves, chemotherapy and radiation. It's one thing to do that and to use surgery or even immunotherapy or anything else and try to pound cancer into submission. It's yet another thing to add positive emotion and eliminate negativity from a person's life. So we're hoping to explore exactly how that could have a beneficial effect on a person. So what are emotions and why do they matter? Well, Harvard Health Publishing, there was a book that was written entitled The Heart-Brain Connection. This goes back to 2019. So I'm going to try to give you as many of the references as possible. But the publication itself explains how emotional and psychological states affect physical health, particularly cardiovascular health. And it also explores the mind-body connection in terms of stress and well-being. So that speaks volume in itself. See, the mind and the body are interconnected systems. Emotional states like joy, stress, anxiety, they can alter biological responses. And the instance of stress triggering hormonal changes and increasing cortisol levels and affecting immune function, that's all been documented and recorded and been explored through clinical study and trial. I know from personal experience, my first exposure to biokinesiology when I was receiving my training in herbology and kinesiology, the instructor did some emotional work on me. I had a chronic issue where for years I've been suffering with bladder infections. If I went near chlorinated water, I'd get a bladder infection. So it's kind of strange. But here I was in my late 20s, early 30s and still having these recurring bladder infections. And she began to do what's called emotional work, emotional kinesiology. That's a whole science in itself. But she was able to literally pinpoint a trauma that occurred in my life. And all it was is I was left in the crib in a different room from all the other adults. But I felt abandoned at that moment. And that my little 2-year-old Jonathan brain stored that memory incorrectly. And from that point on, it caused a problem with my bladder. She took the memory out, put the memory, helped me to restore the memory correctly. And do you know, I have never had another bladder infection since. So I can tell you from personal experience that emotion play a role in your health. In fact, kinesiologists teach that a health problem disease is 80% emotion and 20% physiological. So that's something to keep in mind. That's the reason why we felt it necessary to discuss this component today. In the book, Chronic Stress, Immune Dysregulation in Health, actually, this is a study published in The Lancet. It explored how chronic stress impairs immune regulation, leading to increased susceptibility to illness and complications in health outcome. So, and I just told you my own personal example, but it's really true. Negative emotions activate the body's stress response, releasing cortisol and adrenaline. And these hormones are vital in the short term, but if they remain at a chronic level and elevated for extreme long periods of time, it suppresses immune function. And that's crucial when it comes to fighting cancer. The immune system, crucial when it comes to fighting cancer. Persistent negative emotions like fear and anxiety further increase inflammation and oxidative stress. So if we hear from Dr. Prasad, you will know the importance of eliminating inflammation and oxidative stress. All of that exacerbates cancer progression, just making a bad situation even worse. So that's really the bottom line when it comes to that. So let's see here. The toll that it takes on the body. Hang on, technology problems here. If only we could, if there was a micronutrient that would help computers to respond correctly, that would just be a wonderful thing, wouldn't it? Okay, so there's a study that was published in the Lancet, and that's the screen that goes with it. So let's talk a little bit about the connection between the two. It's an interconnection that takes place. Emotional stress can reduce the effectiveness of cancer treatments like chemotherapy and radiation. And this is really where the rubber meets the road. And you look at a screen like this and look at that circle, very detailed. And I'm hoping we can get some comments from Dr. Prasad specifically on the interplay here. But he's broken down many times for us already the impact of the immune system's response or failure to respond. But you'll notice at the very top of the circle there, the very top of the image, let me just see if we can blow that up a little bit. We're talking about chronic stress. Chronic stress leads to a release of these stress hormones, and many of them are mentioned right there, and that in turn feeds tumor promoting cells. And that's a problem in and of itself. That's where the whole thing begins. And there was a study that was done, likewise, again, that was published. It was entitled Biobehavioral Influences on Cancer Progression and Metastasis. So negative emotions can literally contribute not just to the growth of tumor, but can actually promote the metastatic nature of the disease. Emotional stress affects not only the body's immune defense, but also the effectiveness of cancer treatment. So chemotherapy, radiation rely on immune function, the immune system and how it functions to help eradicate cancer cells. When the immune system is compromised by stress, the body may struggle to respond effectively to these treatments. And as you can see, if pro-inflammatory cytokines are released, that leads to further problems, disrupting circadian rhythm, causing dysfunction there. Sleep gets disrupted. That leads to more stress, and it becomes a vicious cycle, all precipitated by negative emotions. Now, on the flip side, positive emotions can have a beneficial effect. In the book, The Broaden and Build Theory of Positive Emotions, that's a whole theory in itself that suggests that positive emotions can broaden individuals' thought, action, repertoires, and build personal resources. And this can have a very positive psychological effect on a person, making them more resilient and improve their physical health. So, what kind of positive emotions? That's not real complicated. We're talking about things like hope, positivity, love, joy. All of that has a beneficial effect on what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. And that, of course, you can feel that sometimes in your gut, reduces stress and hormone levels and improves overall immune function. So nothing but good can be said about that. Positive emotions can promote better decision making and adherence to treatment plans. And we found that to be the case with many of our clients. When they are given a protocol, if they feel good about the protocol and if they have positivity around them, they actually have a much better chance. It's depressing when you find out that there's stress and negativity surrounding someone who's fighting for their life when it comes to cancer. One of our youngest spiritual daughter, she's only in her 20s, and she had a colon cancer and she beat it. She was very, very optimistic. Initially, the doctors could not believe that this child was alive, and this was years afterwards. But it came back. It came back with a vengeance because of the tremendous amount of negativity that was taking place in her personal life. Then COVID hit, and she was a very gregarious person. She loved people. She loved being around people. She was forced into isolation, and her life just began to be very negative, and things around her was negative. The rest of her biological family, there were components in there that was very negative for her, that she had trouble processing it properly. And so the cancer came back with a vengeance, and we threw the kitchen sink at it, and nothing could overcome that. So not enough can be said when it comes to having positive elements around a person and the entire family being on board when it comes to fighting cancer treatment. And the reference to these next statements is also right there on the screen. Research shows that patients with positive emotional support often fare better. It's very simple, and there's studies that are linked to that. So there's case studies that support that as well. So not very complicated. So how do you improve positive emotions? Everybody's got a different opinion about how to do that, and each person can choose, a system or a method that works, well for them. Some people believe that it's a matter of mind over matter, and if that's your viewpoint, great. But meditation, some people choose off different types of meditation, but if it's as long as it's built on something positive, and especially if you have a strong spiritual support system, that is incredibly beneficial. Support groups of some kind. I've heard a lot about, and you no doubt have researched gratitude practices yourself, because there's a lot of folks, even in the business world now, that tout the importance of having a gratitude journal. But emotional care is extremely important. It fosters positivity and improved well-being during treatment. And all of that, again, has been documented and carefully studied. The reference you see there is the result of a study that evaluated the effectiveness of mindfulness-based stress reduction, is what they call it, MBSR, on cancer patients, and finds that it significantly reduces stress and anxiety and depression while improving immune function. So the two really go hand in hand. So how do we conclude this the conclusion of this emotional component, this particular part of our discussion, emotions have a profound effect on cancer outcomes and overall health. Take a holistic approach to treatment. If there's somebody that you care about, is someone that you're supporting, do your best to make sure that there's positivity around them. Do your best to insulate them from negativity. Maintain optimism around them. I will never forget one situation, a family member. The doctor, this family member had lots of hope. Things were going extremely well. Energy level was higher than ever before, but he was in the hospital. But the doctor came in and decided to tell him that he felt that there was absolutely no hope. And I saw his face change, and I wish I could have flew across the room. And this is just me being personal, and beat that poor doctor to a pulp. That's how I felt, because I knew that he had just stripped my brother-in-law of any optimism. And sure enough, from that moment on, he, in front of everybody, told us to stop giving him anything else that was natural, that was benefiting him. And it wasn't long after that that he just declined and never would recover again, even though the cancer markers in the blood tests and everything were showing a dramatic decrease. I mean, hundreds of points in decrease was taking place. But when I talked to Dr. Nkuzi about what happened there, he said that's referred to in medical terms and in medical school. He said it's called iatrogenic imprinting. And he said doctors and health practitioners are told not to have negative conversations around someone, especially someone who's suffering with chemo brain, not to have negative conversations around them, because you are the authority figure. You're wearing the white coat, and what comes out of your mouth, not only do they remember it, it is literally being imprinted upon them. And he referred to it as iatrogenic imprinting. So focus on positivity, focusing on emotional well-being of the person. Keep that as a key part of their physical healing. And we're not talking about positivity being a cure. We're not trying to suggest that in any way, shape, or form, but it is a significant part of the recovery process for a person. So I'd like to now just get some comments. I'm not sure if Dr. Prasad was able to join us or not. But if we can get some comments from Dr. Prasad, let me just check my screen here and see. Okay, Dr. Prasad was not able to make it, but I have some of his comments that I want to share because it really illustrates, it well illustrates the whole point here about if the immune system is not functioning properly, if there's high levels of stress and oxidative stress in a person's life, something else needs to be done. And this is where this brilliant man, Dr. Prasad's formulas has had a huge positive impact on many people. So we're talking now a holistic approach to this issue, taking a holistic approach, not just, we're not downing conventional medicine, because that's extremely important. So if a person chooses chemotherapy, they choose radiation, they choose surgery, that's all great, but these other components cannot be left out and should not be dismissed as being irrelevant. So hold on one second, let me grab this clip for you that I'd like to share with you that I think will very well illustrate this point. A personal experience you'd like to share right now, please do that. Bernard or Corleen, if you see anyone that raised their hand, please invite them to share their story. It's taking me a second. I got to get this queued up.
We have Cynthia, and Corleen, you can go ahead and take over that. But it says Cynthia Stredrick has raised her hand. Cynthia, if you can
Hi.
unmute, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'd just like to share that I am a 10-year triple negative breast cancer survivor.
Evening.
And hello everybody. And I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, but I'm living here in Atlanta, Georgia now. And pretty much my oncologist told me that. He said, you don't want to be too emotional because that will affect the healing process. You can have your times, but you have to cut it off. And so I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So I am a very spiritual person, and my faith is strong, and my trust was in Jehovah God. I had the support of my husband and my parents, and they kept things positive. I kept a positive outlook. I said to myself, I know Jehovah and my family is going to help me beat this thing. And actually, I did beat it. Unfortunately, though, there were some of my how can I say this? Some of the people that were taking treatments with me, I even went around with my parents and my husband. We went around the whole infusion room to share Bible scriptures and just try to build up a lot of the people in the infusion room because it was so sad in there. And once we did that, everybody was happy. We encouraged them. But unfortunately, there were some people who had triple negative breast cancer. They did not make it. And, because of that and just going through such a traumatic experience, because my oncologist is the advisor of CDC and Mayo Clinic. And because of going through such a traumatic experience and then losing some of the people that I took treatments with, I still have those emotions within me right to this day. But I just wanted to say, yes, that's true. If you aren't positive, then, it's not going to be a good outcome.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing your story. We appreciate that. Never heard that before, but it just adds right to this particular component of it. Okay, so if anyone else has a story, we'll add those in our discussion. But let's hear some of Dr. Prasad's comments now on the nutrition component of this issue.
This is independent of Engage Global. And so because my goal is until FDA approves this, it cannot be reached to wide audience. We can reach some like we are doing now.
Right.
And even one person get benefit, that's good enough for me. But, my goal is to have a FDA approved formulation that I have developed it, and for that it has been approved, patent, and then get the FDA approval. So that will take time. In the meanwhile, people are still having cancer, getting treated, dying, and so on and so forth. So we have to develop some intermediary steps we can do it. And that's what we are going to do. And Engage Global has a product that we can use as a transient phenomena in a meanwhile. And so now the question, like you mentioned it, that this is a real challenge for oncologists, what to do with some of the side effects, Jonathan, that you mentioned. But also another side effect is the late effect of radiation, those who survive cancer 5 years or more. That is also very important. And side effects will include development of a new cancer, occurrence of the primary tumor, reoccurrence of the primary tumor that you were treated with, and also necrosis of the muscle, for example, non-neoplastic diseases like that. So there is a lot of side effects possibilities. So that not possibility established. And people at one time, Dr. Bill Robinson, when I was in Denver, he was giving a lecture, and he said that, 100 years from now, when people will think about cancer treatment, they will think that we were stupid to treat cancer with the cancer-causing agents. So this is true. This is true. At that time, I never realized it, but I was saying that that's probably true. But we don't have any other choice. So we have to do as best as we can what we have. And so, but there is no question radiation is cancer-causing, chemotherapy is cancer-causing agents. And so, but in any case, we have made some improvement in a 5-year survival rate. And so the question is there are two questions. How to improve the response that we are getting today. One. Second, what to do to reduce the toxicity during treatment. And some of the symptoms that you mentioned, Jonathan, is a classical side of acute. We call it acute side effect, and late side effect is different. But how to reduce for the time being? If you can reduce the acute effect, late effect would not happen.
Right.
Or at least markedly reduced. So the first goal is it. So the question is what we can do it. As you know that in this case, Linus Pauling, who was a 2 Nobel laureate, was the first to suggest that high dose of vitamin C can kill cancer cells and not affecting normal cells. So everybody at that time, I remember very well, he applied for a grant to NIH and NIH turned it down. And everybody criticized that he's senile and so on and so forth. But anyway, I thought that he can't be senile because he has won 2 Nobel Prizes. So I started working on vitamin C, and I found that the cell line that I was working was neuroblastoma, which is a childhood brain cancer.
Right.
And so neuroblast. So I said, okay, I will test vitamin C. So vitamin, sure enough, it killed cancer cell, and we have a normal fibroblast, normal cell in culture and in a petri dishes. And so, but it was normal cell was not affected with the same dose that we were killing all neuroblastoma cell. So I said, that's so. Then I further went. I said, let us see what happens if I can combine with the chemotherapeutic agent. Most of them I used them, and also radiation. Indeed, we found that the lower dose of vitamin C, high dose still, will enhance the cell-killing effect of chemotherapy and radiation while protecting the normal tissue at the same time. And I published this work, and I think with the proceeding of National Academy of Sciences, we call it PNAS, which is a highly prestigious journal, and it has to be a sponsor. So I think Linus Pauling is the one who had sponsored that paper. And so that was one. Then I wondered that what happens is vitamin C is one. How about vitamin E? So at that time, everybody was using vitamin E acetate. So I used vitamin E acetate, and so it has no effect on cancer cells. So I asked my wife, who was doing my technician at that time, she was working with me in my lab. I said, why don't you look what other types of vitamin E is available in the marketplace? And found out 3 or 4 different types. She ordered it. And one of them was vitamin E succinate.
Wow.
I tested everybody, but vitamin E succinate in melanoma cell, which is very tough to treat, as you know. It becomes like a normal melanocytes and inhibited it. And then again, same thing I did, combined with the radiation, combined with chemotherapy, did the same thing, enhanced the effect of cell-killing effect of chemotherapy and radiation on a cancer cell, but not normal cell. And so that this paper we published all these things going on, but I never understood it, why it is happening mechanistically. Why?
But that's huge, Dr. Prasad, that you found it, because other scientists have built off that now. And hundreds of papers have been published since then.
Has been confirmed by many other people. So it is not just my work. My work has been confirmed even in animal model, not only in cell culture model, but even in animal model. So that's
incredible.
But what was for a while bothering me was that how can I explain it? It is not happening because antioxidant is a free radical scavenger. So it has nothing to do with free radical, this high dose, because it is enhancing the effect. And then I said, how about this occurred to my mind, that does cancer cell require some specific nutrient for survival and growth? So I looked in literature. I found out, sure, cancer cell requires excessive amount of glucose because they have inefficient system of producing. That's the picture of Linus Pauling.
Just going to pause here for 1 second, because for some this part wasn't real clear. When Dr. Prasad said that how the mechanism of action, he couldn't quite understand what was the mechanism of action. Why was vitamin E succinate? Why was high dose of antioxidants killing the cancer cells? He says it wasn't because of free radicals. Now, the free radicals are extremely deadly. What they do is they steal electrons from healthy cells. And once they steal an electron from a healthy cell, that cell becomes a little weaker and eventually dies. It just shrivels up like an apple shriveling up. So his confusion was, since vitamin E and vitamin E succinate was not killing the cancer cells, because it was improving the outcome, it wasn't doing it by way of killing it. It wasn't killing the cancer cell itself, but the cancer cells were dying. It was improving. It wasn't using the same angle that chemotherapy and radiation uses. See, chemotherapy and radiation are free radicals in themselves. They're very, very toxic. And that's what causes all the damage to the other cells in the body. So his confusion was, if it's not killing by way of free radicals, then what is the mechanism of action? How's it doing? So that's why he's pursuing this line of thinking right now. And remember, all of this was precipitated by his observations and his relationship with Linus Pauling. And that picture right there, Jeff put up on the screen, that was him with his children and his wife, with Dr. Linus Pauling at the time. So just want to try to clarify that a little bit.
My son and Judy, yes, for survival and growth. So I looked in literature. I found out, sure, cancer cell requires excessive amount of glucose because they have inefficient system of producing. That's the picture of Linus Pauling with my son and Judy.
Yes. That's history.
Yeah, but so in any case, so it was. So I found out that the cell requires, say, glucose and glutamine. Without that, they will die of starvation. No energy and no vital molecules. Glutamine is very important to make vital molecules for your survival, like RNA, DNA, and many other things, very important. And so then I said, maybe it is possible that that high-dose antioxidant have nothing to do with free radical scavenging or destruction of free radical. It blocks the uptake of glucose and glutamine, and so cell die of starvation and lack of energy. And so then I said, when I started doing research on this issue, I found out, sure enough, high-dose antioxidants blocks the uptake of glucose and metabolism of in a cancer cell, but not in normal cell. Normal cells don't get affected. And so
that is mind-boggling, just to contemplate what this man just said. He probed around to try to figure out why the cancer cells was dying, and those two things that cancer cells need, glutamate and glucose. He figured out that these high antioxidants that we were just talking about simply blocks the way that cancer eats. It's like you sitting down and trying to eat. You got a beautiful plate of food in front of you. You're sitting at a buffet, but someone has shoved a baseball and 2 socks in your mouth. No matter how much food is in front of you, you simply can't eat. That's what he's saying happened, that he figured out happens to cancer cells. They just can't eat when they're subjected to large amounts of antioxidants.
So then I said, well, okay, I got it now. So then I started doing it, and
you got it all right.
Patent and so on and so forth. So right now, so what we are doing right now for the time being, until I find my investor for my formulation, that we have micro daily hydro, for example, and we suggest that if you increase 3 times preventive dose, Means suppose if you are taking hydro 3 in the morning, 3 in the evening, that would be considered a high doses of antioxidant, because preventive dose has about 1.5 1500 milligram of a vitamin C, and if you multiply by it, it will be close to 5 grams.
Yes.
And the minimum amount that we think, it can go 4 depending upon what kind of cancer it is. And so, but in the beginning, I think
So keep in mind that he's talking about 3 packages of EMF hydro, not 3 capsules of EMF. If you're taking the capsules of EMF, that would be at least 9 capsules of EMF in the morning and 9 capsules in the evening. So his statement was about 3 packages of microdaily EMF hydro. That's high dose of antioxidant. He just did the calculation there. That's approximately at least 5 grams of vitamin C, not to mention all the other antioxidants that are in microdaily, in addition to the fact that that's elevated levels of N-acetylcysteine. He doesn't talk about it here, but elevated levels of N-acetylcysteine that also raises glutathione levels. We'll talk about negative feedback inhibition a little bit later.
3 is good enough to the minimum amount that we think, it can go 4 depending upon what kind of cancer it is. And so, but in the beginning, I think a 3 is good enough to start it, but it can go 4 times too.
Well, and we actually have some information or some examples that substantiate what you're saying, Dr. Prasad.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of folks here right now that are on this program that are hearing what you said for the first time, that this high antioxidant thing stuffing or plugging in the mouth of the cancer cells is incredible. That's incredibly important. But do you mind if we share maybe 2 testimonials that
Sure.
actually support that? And then we're going to want to hear about your formula, your recommendation as to why it is that microdaily and the core 4, are beneficial approaches to this as well. So
yes.
I think that would be very good. So Beth has I just need to warn everybody, we're going to be showing an actual image of a human face here that's been infected by cancer. So if anyone is uncomfortable with that, now would be the time for you to maybe step away from your screen if you don't want to see this case. So just to let you know. But again, remember folks, testimonials are purely anecdotal. What happens to one person may or may not happen to you. Beth, are you with us now?
About around August 2nd. His wife came to me. She had just learned about this product.
August 2nd, this year, 2023.
Yeah, so there was no time for them to get shipment. So she came and picked up product at the house. And he was going to get treatment. He was going to get 33 rounds of radiation. It was under his eye. So I told them to take the 12 capsules twice a day, along with the omega-3 probiotic, and to do digestive enzymes before his meals, and do a couple packs of hydro during the day. And he faithfully did this. He did it every single day. He had his last treatment September 26th, around there. And we physically saw him when we had our Super Saturday in Charlotte. And the pictures that you have, I took a picture close up of his face. You can't even see the scar. So that was within 90 days of 33 rounds of radiation, plus doing the protocol that was given to him that I told him and his wife to do. But the biggest thing that he did, he listened, he did it, and he got the results. And I guess you're getting ready to show it. Yeah.
Was he taking the protocol?
I'm just going to pause it right there, folks. And that one story right there really well illustrated exactly the effectiveness of Dr. Prasad's high-dose antioxidant protocol. It does work. There's no question about it. We've seen it, time and time again. We're not talking about a cure or treatment for disease, so just want to really make that clear again. But there's no question about it being effective. So we do have a few minutes that we want to just hear maybe a couple of comments from Dr. Prasad. He has been able to join us, and you heard he just gave us a full explanation of how the science and the theory behind his formulation and microdaily EMF, of course, is a substitute for that, and it works very, very well. But what qualifies this man to be able to do this? Well, there's his credentials. Just take a screenshot of this, and you can see for yourself that this is no ordinary run-of-the-mill scientist. He's top shelf and the best of the best. He was a professor of University of Colorado School of Medicine for more than 30 years, invited to be a member of the Nobel Peace Prize nominating committee for categories in the category of medicine. So Dr. Prasad is still in ripe young age of 90 plus, is cranking out work, still getting peer-reviewed publications published, and still authoring books. So this man is nothing short of remarkable. These are just some of the books that he's printed or published, and we just touched on a little bit of his new research just there in that clip that we recorded of Dr. Prasad. So, Dr. Prasad, thank you for your willingness to come on and join us in our discussion here today. Let's see if we can.
I'm very sorry, Jonathan. I got involved in something else, and then suddenly I remember, oh, I should have been there earlier. So I apologize for that delay.
Oh, Dr. Prasad, that's never a problem. We're happy that you're able to join us in any portion of your day. And we added some of your comments that you shared with us in the past, so no one ever feels cheated here. We were talking about the emotional component, Dr. Prasad, because
Yes.
I set that up,
Yeah.
and I was hoping that you could comment. There's one particular screen that I hope that you might be able to give a comment on,
Sure.
if you don't mind,
Sure.
because I think everybody needs to hear what you got to say about this one in particular. And folks, I'm sorry if we don't get to talking about microdaily and the other things here anytime soon, but I want to hear Dr. Prasad tell us a little bit about the impact of stress on cancer. So I'm trying to go back to that one screen. This one right here, Dr. Prasad.
Mhm.
So this one here is illustrating hide floating panel. Okay. Just the impact of chronic stress.
Yes.
And
Yeah, I mean, impact is terrible because, as you can see in the diagram, it produces pro-inflammatory cytokines, which can create, say, inflammation in your brain, inflammation in all over your body, and also that it can, it is very dangerous thing to have it. And the question is, many cancer patients get worried about, anxious about it. What is going to happen to me? I may die. So the question is how you take care of this issue of stress.
Mhm.
Because it causes almost everything you can think of, impaired immune functions, it creates all kind of problems.
So it
Plus,
really does
plus it-
feed the cancer.
Plus, it creates also additional, it increases the risk of progression of the cancer, as well as it is also very important to remember that it can make your life very miserable.
Yeah.
And so anxiety, depression, So
Yeah.
the question is, most important question is how you take care of them. But the two issues involved, which is your these pro-inflammatory cytokines produced. One source is of course, intestinal dysbiosis is the major source of contributing to pro-inflammatory cytokine. In addition to that, if you have a cancer or even if you're an old one, your body has already high oxidative stress. And anytime you have a high oxidative stress, that also induces chronic inflammation.
Mm.
So now the combination of the two, that you already have it, and then intestinal dysbiosis is further contributing it, that it becomes more problematic. So the question is how you reduce this. Well, if from prevention point of view, that of course, you take a probiotics so that you reverse the intestinal dysbiosis,
Right.
and tank macro daily, which will take care of oxidative stress and all the related damage that oxidative stress causes. So that's very, very good one. But how do you take care of if you have a emotion, for example, behavior changes, depression, anxiety? For that, the one, and in my opinion, and these two is a must. Probiotics and a micro daily is a must. But also, third component becomes very important is the CBD. Yeah, here is the probiotics. And the CBD is the only way you can reduce your anxiety. Why? Because CBD is first, it is safe, is a FDA approved agent, so there is no problem in toxicity. And so CBD can reduce anxiety and depression in a three different way. First, it increases the level of serotonin in the brain. And if your brain is high level of serotonin, you feel calm and quiet, relaxed. Another thing is that it also reduces the glutamate, release of glutamate. And if you have excessive glutamate, you become hyperactive, you can become anxiety, irrational. And so CBD will decrease the glutamate release, so you don't have that problem. Third thing she does it also increases the dopamine level. Why sometimes you are happy? Because your brain has a high dopamine level. So CBD directly acts as a dopamine receptor called D2 and increases the dopamine level. So CBD boost is a must if you are having a chronic. It is not routine for everybody is important, but if
Right.
you are having a anxiety, depressions, and uncomfortable, then it is CBD the one, in my opinion, one and only way you can handle the situation.
Wow. Wow. That's so true, Dr. Prasad. I personally, I benefit tremendously from CBD. And when I was talking earlier about my spiritual daughter, that's one of the things that we tried to put her on to help her deal with the overwhelming amount of stress that was taking place in her family. And it probably bought her quite a bit of time. But Dr. Prasad's comments here is just priceless for us to be able to see the benefits of this when it comes to fighting cancer. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and this has been also doctors are using it, CBD in combination. We have a separate protocol for ADHD and autism, and the doctors are reporting to us that they are having excellent result for the kids.
Oh, that's fantastic. And now we have a couple of comments here from see if we can add Elizabeth Henry to our discussion here. Because we were talking so much about emotion and the emotional component of fighting cancer. So, Elizabeth, are you looking to share a story with us?
I was.
Okay.
This is not a cancer patient. However, this is a person who just recently started taking the premium bundle and the digestive boost probiotics. He was born with a grade 5 brain bleed.
Ooh.
He's deaf, blind, has cerebral palsy. He's epileptic, has fluid in the brain, spastic quadriplegic. The doctors thought he would die. He's now 30 years old. His mother has taken wonderful care of him. He was able to eat at one time, but for the last few years, he's on a feeding tube. So she was concerned about what Microdaily would do for him. So she got these products, started him on, put him in the feeding tube. I think I talked to you about that, Jonathan. Well, the other day, less than 3 months now, I decided to check up on them again. And I said, how is Curtis doing? And his caregiver said, since he's been taking the probiotics, he's happy. He used to cry. He used to whine and moan all the time. Now he's laughing. He's now smiling. And I saw it for myself when I visited him. He seems to be more responsive even to me. and he's smiling and laughing.
I can't believe.
And I might add, they thought he would always be nonverbal, but recently he's actually said a few words. So all in 3 months on Microdaily.
Wow.
Huh.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for sharing.
Yeah,
that story.
that's amazing. That's an amazing story, John.
No, Dr. Prasad, it just seems like it keeps coming, my friend. It keeps coming.
I could not have imagined.
Sharon Tate has a comment. You're going to share a story with us. That is Sharon Tate, right? S. Tate?
Yeah, it's me.
Yes, go ahead, please.
It's me. Hi. Well, you've probably heard my story before. I started taking, I had precancerous cells on my uterus. And I was scheduled to have a colposcopy where they go in with the camera and they look and swab your uterus with acetic acid to check for precancerous cells. So I started the Microdaily Hydro February 19th after pouring it in on a testimonial day before I had even started the product. And I asked Dr. Prasad what I should take. I told him I had these precancerous cells. And Dr. Prasad, you said I should take the Microdaily Hydro 3 times a day and the probiotic twice a day. And I did that. I started it on February 19th. Well, on May 10th, when I went in for my colposcopy, and she put the acetic acid on my uterus, and she did it once, she did it again. She said, there's nothing there. There's no precancerous cells there. And I'm like, I almost jumped off the table. I was so happy. Now I'm saying, okay, well, it handled my precancerous cells, my uterus. I'm like, well, I'm just gonna keep taking it. I'm not worried about anything because I was scheduled on June 21st to have an endoscopy where they go down your throat and they look, because I had problems swallowing, and they went up the other end for my colonoscopy. And I said, well, I'm not gonna worry about it because I know it took care of my uterus. So I know it's gonna take care of everything else. So I went into this with a positive attitude. It's gonna take care of it. I wasn't worried about it. I wasn't worried about a thing. And I've shown these pictures before. These are the pictures of my endoscopy, my colonoscopy, clear as a whistle. Nothing there. Absolutely nothing there. And I'm still taking it. I said, I'm taking it, Microdaily Hydro and my probiotic and prebiotic for the rest of my life.
Very
So
good.
these are the pictures. So I'm like, I was like, well, it took care of my uterus, so I know it's going to take care of the rest of it. So, like I said, I'm on my second. I'm drinking some now. So that's my testimony. Thank you very much, Dr. Prasad. Thank you.
Sharon, thank you very much for sharing your story. And these never get old, Dr. Prasad. So I think it's very clear that that your product is changing lives. But for those who are wondering now just how to get the product and how expensive is this going to be, just rest assured, folks, it's reasonable. Now, if you were to take all the ingredients that you see on the labels, it will cost more than $1,000. But and if you bought it retail, the items that you see on the screen, we're not even talking about the CBD as yet, but you could instead of going with this bundle here, you can just go with the premium bundle or the basic bundle, and then just add on the CBD if you're fighting cancer and some extra Microdaily. But for this bundle here, for the rest of us, this bundle here would only cost $199.99. So that's $200. So Engage Global really has lowered this price below the wholesale cost, because the wholesale cost would be $225. But for the rest of us, it's only $199. If you change that to the Hydro, the Microdaily Hydro, it would only be about $205. And this month, if you order the Core 4, you get the Sleep Boost absolutely free. So you want to take advantage of that as well. So, but here's the starting point. If you are fighting cancer and you want to support your body nutritionally, then we would recommend that you go with 3 bottles of the microdaily EMF or 3 boxes of the hydro. And the person who invited you here will help you with figuring that out. And then for the emotional component of it, then you just would add on the CBD boost, as Dr. Prasad just commented on earlier. So it's only $110. So that's a significant price reduction here. And if you go on a subscription and add on the additional micro daily, then you get the wholesale price for that too. But again, just get back with the person who invited you to this discussion today, and they will help you to figure out what combinations and which bundle you will want to make sure that you put together to benefit yourself. And so next week, the company's ambassadors are going to be hosting the program for next Sunday. So take a screenshot of this, please, and make sure that you're here. And if you do have testimonials or stories that you'd like to share, you want to bring them next week. And if you've got new people that need to hear information from a variety of people as to how they've benefited from Dr. Prasad's formulas, you want them here next week. There's not one single person that couldn't benefit from being here for next week's discussion. The past 3 weeks, we've been focusing on supporting individuals who are fighting cancer. And each week, we've had individuals, even outside of the ones that we were sharing with you, that shared their stories about how Dr. Prasad's formulas has been of benefit to them. Next week, imagine the entire program will be primarily about that. So Jeff said that that he's looking forward to it, and he's ready to rock and roll with next week's program. So Dr. Prasad, is there anything else that folks need to be mindful of when they're fighting cancer that they need to keep in mind that you'd like to share?
No, I think it's just that when you have a diagnosis of cancer, say for the first time, before you start your chemo and radiation, 2 weeks before that, you use the high dose antioxidant so that by the time you comes and get a radiation or chemotherapy, the tumor has already shrunken. So doctor doesn't have to give too many high dose or, chemotherapy, might consider reducing it, because if the tumor is smaller than he thought initially, then might not need as much as you do. And if you and when you start getting a chemotherapy, as you know, chemotherapy and radiation therapy works by totally different mechanism that they kill cancer cell. They kill cancer cell by producing free radicals, and free radical does not distinguish between normal and cancer cell. They damage both. But high dose antioxidant, because the mechanism is different, high dose antioxidant has nothing to do, when they kill cancer cell, has nothing to do with free radicals at all. And so if anything, if there is a free radical, some free radicals is already producing by, say, if you are getting a radiation and chemotherapy, then antioxidant might even protect against the toxicity of chemotherapy and radiation.
Yes, indeed. I understand that. Tell me something, Dr. Prasad. This question has come up a number of times over the past month and a half or so. There are people out there doing, vitamin C infusions with synthetic, vitamin C.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any potential downside to that, or is there an upside to
It is a downside of if you just give a vitamin C alone, especially vitamin C, that it gets oxidized, and this could not be as effective as you think it. So many times, but the result has not been very good if you just give a high dose of vitamin C. Clinical study has been performed long time ago. Linus Pauling did it. You see some tumor little bit regression, no question about it, but overall has no value. And so when many doctor or nurses practice the cancer patient, they infuse, IV, it will cure cancer. It never happened. The kind of a story you hear from our product, our high dose antioxidant, they never claim to be there. It's transient, for some time it might, but side effect is there because it gets oxidized quickly. Vitamin C is one of the things that get oxidized very rapidly.
I see. I see. So that's really where the problem is. It can become a free radical in itself.
Exactly.
It can add to the
Yeah.
problem.
If you get too much, it's no good.
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
That's why it is.
Well, I think you just told us a mouthful there, Dr. Prasad. Thank you very much for sharing it with us. So, folks, you heard from Professor Prasad once again today, and Dr. Prasad, we can't say thank you enough. Guys, want to unmute yourselves? Feel free to do so. Bernard,
thank you, Dr. Prasad.
Elaine,
Thank you,
everyone
John.
else, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Prasad.
Excellent.
Dr.
Thank you.
Prasad.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Great job, everybody.